Good morning, beautiful. I can't believe we are on chapter 12. That means that we are halfway through our Christmas devotional. I'm so excited about Christmas and celebrating the birth of Christ. So let's get right into this. In the meantime, a crowd of many thousands had gathered so that they were trampling one another. Okay, so imagine this. Picture this scene in your mind. Thousands of people trampling one another. Jesus began to speak first to his disciples. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, and nothing hidden that will not be made known. What you have spoken in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the housetops. Now let's sit there for a second. Okay, let's just sit there for a second. Let's think about this. Let's think about this. How many times do we kind of like speak something under our breath to someone else? Or do we know that it's not like the appropriate thing to say, but we say it real quiet, or we think it in the, we say it so, whatever it is. Jesus says it's going to be proclaimed from the housetops. Like what? Nothing is secret with him. Nothing is secret with him. We've got to remember he is with us at all times. He knows everything that comes out of our mouth. He knows every thought in our head. We've got to remember this. We would not want what we say to be proclaimed from the housetops because it's inappropriate. So if you're saying something that you wouldn't want proclaimed from the housetops, you need not be saying it. So that's our lesson for today or so far. Let's see what else God has in store for us. Verse 4. Jesus is still talking. I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that can do no more. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear the one who, after you have been killed, has authority to throw you into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him! Exclamation mark. I love that. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God, and even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, I love this. Okay, verse 8. Jesus is still talking to his disciples, okay? There's thousands of people trampling each other to listen, but he is talking to his disciples at this point. I tell you, everyone who confesses me before men, the Son of Man, will also confess him before the angels of God. But whoever denies me before men will be denied before the angels of God. And everyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven. But whoever blasphemies against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven. When you are brought before synagogues, rulers, and authorities, do not worry about how to defend yourself or what to say, for at that time the Holy Spirit will teach you what you should say. I will tell you, as a Bible study teacher, sometimes before I am live on a Zoom call, I will begin to panic. I'm like, God, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say the wrong thing. And I pray for the Holy Spirit to guide me. And I'm telling you what, he does. He does. It's so amazing. So please reach out to him when you feel like you won't know what to say. All right, verse 13. Now, remember, we're still in this crowd of thousands trampling each other. It says, someone in the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide. Oh, this is hilarious. I have to think about this for a second. This is hilarious. Okay, like Jesus doesn't have more important things to do. Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. But, there's the big old but Jesus replied, Man, who appointed me judge or executor between you? And he said to them, Watch out. Guard yourselves against every form of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Listen to that. We can get so carried away at Christmas time, so carried away. A person's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Jesus is warning us here. He's warning us. Verse 16, then he told them a parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced an abundance. So he thought to himself, what shall I do, since I have nowhere to store my crops? Then he said, this is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store up all my grain and my goods. Then I will say to myself, you have plenty of goods laid up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But, big old but God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be required of you. Then who will own what you have accumulated? Isn't that good? That's so good. That's so good. We don't need to store up the stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, because we got some storage of some food at our house. I'm just saying we do. We do. But it's not because we don't trust God. It's for other reasons that we don't trust. Anywho, we don't accumulate a bunch of things because we cannot take them with us. There are hungry people in the world. There could be hungry people down your street. So don't accumulate things. Give, okay? This is how it will be for anyone who stores up treasure for himself, but is not rich toward God. Now we've got verse 22. Then Jesus said to his disciples, so he answered the man that shouted out, but now he's looking back at his disciples. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storehouse or barn, yet God feeds them. How much more valuable you are than the birds. Now, I just want to say right here, don't get me wrong, because I totally know that God will meet my needs. I will never starve unless that was his plan for me. My family will never go hungry unless that was his plan for them. So no, we do not need to stock up on anything. We need to trust God. Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to his life? So if you cannot do such a small thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the lilies grow. I love how he used nature here in all of these analogies. He used the sparrows, and he's using, what other birds did he just use? The ravens. I forgot what it was. And now he's saying the lilies. Consider how the lilies grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his glory was adorned like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith! Exclamation mark. And do not be concerned about what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it, for the Gentiles of the world strive after all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be added unto you. Do not be afraid, little flock. I love that, you little flock. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father is pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide yourselves with purses that will not wear out, and inexhaustible treasure in heaven, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for service and keep your lamps burning. Then you will be like servants waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that when he comes and knocks, they can open the door for him at once. Blessed are those servants whom the master finds on watch when he returns. Truly, I tell you, he will dress himself to serve and will have them recline at the table, and he himself will come and wait on them. Even if he comes in the second or third watch of the night and finds them alert, those servants will be blessed. But understand this, if the homeowner had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You must also be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour you do not expect. Listen to that, okay? The rapture, even though the word rapture is not used in 1 Thessalonians, if you read it, it talks about us being taken up with Christ. This is what he's saying. It will come at an hour you do not expect. What are you going to be doing when God raptures his church? What are you going to be doing? Is what you were doing last night at such and such time, is that something you want to be doing when Christ comes back to rapture his church? Then don't do it, right? Don't do it. Be thinking of these things all of the time, Lord, said Peter, are you addressing this parable to us or to everyone else as well? Isn't that funny? Peter's like, I don't know what's going on here. And the Lord answered, who then is the faithful and wise manager whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them portion at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly, I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. Is that not hilarious? He didn't answer Peter, did he? He didn't answer Peter. I mean, he did, but he's not really answering him. But suppose that servant says in his heart, my master will be a long time in coming. And he begins to beat the men servants and maid servants and to eat and drink and get drunk. The master of that servant will come on a day he does not expect and at an hour he does not anticipate. Then he will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers. Ouch. He is answering Peter. He's just not answering him about who he's talking to. That servant who knows his master's will, but does not get ready or follow his instructions will be beaten with many blows. But the one who unknowingly does things worthy of punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be required. And from him who has been entrusted with much, even more will be demanded. I have come to ignite a fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. But I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to bring peace to earth? Now listen, this is Jesus, okay? They've been waiting for this Messiah for thousands of years. And they think that he's the one, right? Many of them think, oh, this might be the Messiah. This might be him. And he says, do you think that I've come to bring peace to earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on, 5 in one household will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. What does he mean, right? Okay, then Jesus said to the crowds, now he's turning. He's not just talking to his disciples. He's not talking to the man that yelled out of turn. He's talking to the crowds. As soon as you see a cloud rising in the west, you say, a shower is coming. And that is what happens. And when the south wind blows, you say, it will be hot. And it is. You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and sky. Why don't you know how to interpret the present time? Right? He's coming. He's coming. We need to know this. Verse 57, and why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? Make every effort to reconcile with your adversary while you are on your way to the magistrate. Otherwise, he may drag you off to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and the officer may throw you in prison. I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the very last penny. Aren't Jesus's parables fascinating? They don't always make sense. He didn't want them to always make sense. But if you read some commentary and read several, more than one, okay, you can find them free online. Read commentary, read the scholars, read the pastors, read the experts. Read more than one and figure out what Jesus was talking about here. They don't all know for sure, but it will give you better insight on it. So this was great. I love this. I can't wait for tomorrow when we get into chapter 13. This is getting so good. I will see you then. Bye.